across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are, the week starts here. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That's 03444991000. It is Monday, May the 18th. Here's what's coming up. What are we to do when arguably the two most powerful politicians in the country choose to deliberately mischaracterise the dueling demos in London over the weekend? Prime Minister Keir Starmer, in advance last Friday, releasing an incendiary video condemning the so-called hatred that he would not tolerate at Saturday's Unite the Kingdom march, but not mentioning the explosion of Jew hatred that unfolded at the pro-Palestine Nakba event. Mayor of London Sadiq Khan this morning slamming the Islamophobic incident at what he dubbed the far-right protest, but not mentioning the fact that police are now hunting for 7 anti-Semites who went to London to spew their vile prejudice against Jews at Nakba. The truth is, there was a friendly, good-natured atmosphere at Unite the Kingdom and not a mask in sight. Meanwhile, Nakba was a cauldron of masked maniacs calling for the mass murder of Jews and the annihilation of Israel. I know, because I went to both. Starmer and Khan are lying if they think the hate was among the flag-waving patriots. It just wasn't. But boy, was there a nasty feeling in the air at Nakba. Your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. 03444991000. Also on today's action-packed show, the battle for Makerfield turns into the battle for British sovereignty as self-styled King of the North, Andy Burnham, pretends he doesn't want to take Britain into the EU, even though he does. And leadership rival West Streeting comes right out and says it. He wants to rejoin the Brussels Club. Don't any of these Labour people care at all about the democratic decision in 2016 of the British people to leave the European Union? Doesn't that even register on their dial? 03444991000. What do you think about the fact they don't care what you voted for? They don't care what you believe in. They've got their own agenda, and they're going to impose it on you whether you like it or not. 03444991000. Plus, looks like Justice Secretary David Lammy wants to send parents to prison for not steering their kids away from law-breaking. So, in Labour's illiberal dystopia, not being good mums and dads will be a criminal offence? Really? Does David Lammy really believe poor parenting should be imprisonable? You get sent to jail because you're not very good at being a mum or a dad and your kid's a bit of a tearaway. Oh, look, that's not good. But surely we don't send mums and dads to jail for not being very good at parenting. Come on, Lammy. It's Great Britain, not North Korea. 03444991000. Also today, the French admit that the £662 million hopeless Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood just handed them to carry on not stopping the small boats won't make a blind bit of difference. Why did we already know what Ms Mahmood did not? We knew this £662 million wouldn't make any difference. Why did she believe it would? 03444991000. And trouble at the BBC on the first day of new Director General Matt Britton's tenure as sacked Radio 2 DJ Scott Mills prepares to launch legal action for alleged unfair dismissal, and former head of news Fran Unsworth reveals the depth of political extremism ruining impartial coverage in the notoriously biased state broadcaster's newsroom. And finally, Kinsey Schofield on Meghan's latest fabulous feat of photo op empathy and the widespread disgust over the former Prince Andrew's cruel treatment of his dog, kicking the poor thing in the head at an animal slaughter shooting weekend. What do you think about that? 03444 991 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. Let's go straight over to my first guest. He is the Shadow Defence Minister. He's also the chairman of the European Research Group, the ERG, and the Conservative MP for Raleigh and Wickford. Welcome, Mark Francois. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Karen. Thank you for having me back on the show.
Thank you for joining us. Well, Andy Burnham is now the battle for Makerfield, if you like. We were joking last night they should call it Make Makerfield Great Again. But I'm not sure it'll be made great again, if it's not already great, by the way, by Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham, King of the North, you know, a man who went back to his roots, who moves among normal people. And in fairness, he can speak human, unlike Keir Starmer. He can communicate, there's no doubt about that. But actually, this sort of gruff northern exterior, you know, man of the people and all this, it actually hides a classic Labour metropolitan outlook, which, you know, favours us rejoining the EU. Now, over the weekend, Wes Streeting, his leadership rival, you know, put the cat among the pigeons, dropped the nuclear bomb by saying, I want to rejoin. That has made life very difficult for Andy Burnham because he wants to rejoin the EU as well. And as he tries to win Makerfield, the people of Makerfield are staunch Brexiteers. Burnham's approach is, I don't want to talk about that at the moment. Well, I suspect that Reform UK and the Tories, if you put up a candidate, perhaps you can tell us what you're going to do about that. But Reform UK and the Tories, all his opponents, will make him talk about it. You can't go into a Brexiteer constituency and say, although I'm a secret Remainer, I'm going to try to not mention that. He's kind of doomed, isn't he?
Well, thanks, Karen. He's not a secret Remainer at all. In 2024, he wrote a book called Head North with an old friend of his called Steve Rotherham, who is the city region mayor for Liverpool. And in the book, which I've read, you know your opponent and all that, it's absolutely clear that he is a staunch critique of Brexit.
Did you say staunch cretin there?
No, I said critic.
I'll take that.
He's a staunch critic of Brexit. But seriously, you know, it's very plain if you read the book.
Yeah.
He wants us to rejoin the European Union. So whatever he might be saying today, I think he's now trying to say that he respects the result because someone's told him that the vast bulk of people in Wigan voted to leave the European Union. If you read the book, it's very clear where he and Steve are, and absolutely Burnham's on the record as wanting to rejoin. He told the Labour Party conference last year, I hope in my lifetime that we will rejoin the European Union. So there's no ambiguity there. He is a rejoiner.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's the people in Makerfield. I mean, you've seen lots of parliamentary by-elections down the years. In my experience, people in those by-elections don't like to be taken for granted. They don't like politicians, or don't take this the wrong way, media pundits telling them who to vote for. They want to decide for themselves who to vote for. And I think a lot of them may well have already worked out that they're being expected to vote for Andy Burnham as some kind of internal Labour Party battle rather than trying to choose the best representative for their seat.
Yeah, they're being treated like a pawn in Andy Burnham's chess game, and they won't like that at all. Before we continue, Mark, let's have a quick look at Andy Burnham and what he said about Brexit at a speech he made earlier today.
My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. Britain will be stuck in a permanent rut if we're just constantly arguing and people are pulling away from each other. I am not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum. and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote.
Yeah, I think the key words there, Mark, were right now. I don't think we should rejoin the EU right now. He does believe in the long term, or maybe even the short term, that he wants Britain to rejoin the EU, as does West Streeting, of course. Now, the people of Makerfield, it is on record. It's one of those constituencies that doesn't fit nicely into a council boundary, but mostly it's Wigan Council, and at Wigan Council the Makerfield representatives, I think, returned 23 Reform UK candidates at the local election out of 25. Now, in this respect, in terms of Europe, Reform UK will be representing, I think, the same kind of argument that the Tories will represent. The people made their decision, and we must honour that. We will stay out of the EU. That's what the people of this country democratically decided. Andy Burnham and West Streeting, who's come right out and said it, they, in my view, should be electorally punished for their belief that the democratic decision of this country, the people of this country, should be overturned. And I think the people of Makerfield will say, well, hang on, we don't, never mind right now, we don't want to rejoin the EU, the Brussels Club, anytime ever. And unless Burnham can turn around and say, I agree with you, I'll keep us out forever, then I think he's going to seriously struggle in that very Brexiteer constituency.
Well, I think before, Kevin, for the avoidance of doubt, I always rather wanted us to leave the European Union, and I'm glad that we did. But look, anyone who sees the clip that you just played can see a man furiously backpedaling. He's on the record. I've just given you two examples of where he's very pro rejoining the European Union, and he can see what he likes now. It's too late. The cat's out of the bag. The people in Makerfield, if they choose to vote for him, it's their decision, would be voting for a very pro-EU MP. He's also massively pro-proportional representation. He wants to change the voting system for Westminster, even though there was a referendum on that back in 2014, you might remember, to adopt a form of PR. That was overwhelmingly rejected by the British people by a margin of well over 2-1. So Andy Burnham is, I believe, arguing against the instincts of the British people, and he's not the only one in the Labour Party who's never accepted the EU referendum result. Starmer's never, ever accepted it. Keir Starmer remains a Remainer. He always will. I would say 90% of the Labour backbenches would rejoin tomorrow if they thought they had the chance to do it. You only have to listen to them in Parliament. They are overwhelmingly Remain inclined. So again, it's a choice for the people of Makerfield. But if they want a very Europhile, pro-PR member of Parliament, they could vote for Andy Burnham.
Indeed. There are other issues as well where I would hazard a guess Andy will struggle. For example, you know, I wouldn't like to be a candidate going around the good people of Makerfield say, hey, you know Ed Miliband's net zero policies, we're going to double down on that. So your energy bills right now are sky high, but Labour will continue to make them higher and higher. So vote for me. Good luck with that, Andy.
Well, you know, no one forced him to write the book. You know, it's all in there in black and white. You can't 2 years later say, oh, there's a book called Head North, written by a bloke called Andy Burnham.
Well, that wasn't me.
That wasn't me. That's my twin brother who goes around impersonating me. You know, he wrote the blooming book. It's all in there in black and white. I don't work for his publisher. I'm not trying to flog copies of the thing. I had to read it. But nevertheless, it makes very plain the sort of politician that he is. And it might be that he's going to struggle. Either way, in by-elections, my experience, the people, you know, they realise they're on the national stage. It's a very important decision. And the people of Makerfield are going to want to vote for who they want to vote for, not just because Andy Burnham or anybody else tells them what to do. Yeah,
I think that the being taken for granted will really annoy the good people of Makerfield. It would annoy me. It would annoy any right-thinking Brit, I think. You know, how dare you just think we are a pawn in your little political chess game? I think the people of Makerfield will not only be reluctant to vote under those circumstances, I think they'll be very angry. I think he's in trouble there. Earlier today, Mark...
I might just contend with you on one point, Kevin, if I may.
Go on.
I'm not sure they'll be reluctant to vote. I think quite a lot of them will be quite keen to vote.
No, I went to reluctant to vote for him.
To vote the way that Andy wants them to vote.
Yeah, I meant that. I meant they'll be reluctant to vote for him. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, spoke earlier about this by-election. Let's have a little listen to him.
Well, I'm not going to do that. It is obviously a very important by-election. And can I be really clear, as I've also my staff this morning, it is a fight between Labour and Reform. It's a very important fight. I will be backing 100% whoever the candidate is, not quite chosen yet, but soon to be chosen. Whoever the Labour candidate is, I'll be 100% behind them. I want the whole of the party, whole movement tied together. Whatever views people may have on the direction of the party, that needs to be put to one side. It's an important by-election. Let's come together and do what we do as a party best, which is to unite as we campaign into this by-election.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the interesting things, Mark, about this by-election, in effect, that both candidates, both Andy Burnham and whoever Reform UK put up, will be running on the same ticket, get rid of Starmer, which is kind of weird. Jacob Rees-Mogg, former Tory cabinet minister, of course, has today said that the Tories should not stand a candidate in Makerfield so as not to divide the, shall we say, right of centre vote and to help Reform beat Labour. Do you agree with him?
No, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But firstly, we're going to have the wonderful irony, are we? So if Andy Burnham is selected as the Labour candidate, we're going to have Sir Keir Starmer as his chief cheerleader, are we? The same Keir Starmer who stopped him being the candidate in the previous by-election by helping to rig a vote at the Labour National Executive Committee that did him in 8 votes to 1. So Keir Starmer's twin brother, you know, is now going to be massively pro-Andy Burnham, whereas before he was running around trying to stop him getting back into Parliament. And the public are supposed to look at this and think that there's nothing at all unusual about it, are they? I mean, to me, that's just completely bonkers. Again, people will watch these clips for themselves and draw their own conclusions. But I think most reasonable people will go, you're a hypocrite, mate.
I would agree with that. What about the fielding of a candidate? Do you disagree with Jacob Rees-Mogg? You feel that the Tories should field a candidate?
I think we should. And if I may, Kevin, forgive me, you've picked the wrong day to ask me, because my constituents have now got to shell out £35,000 to have a double-header district and county by-election in Rayleigh on the same day as the Makerfield by-election, ironically, because a Reform councillor resigned after 4 days in office. So he lasted less than a week. He resigned, I think, because of some stuff he put on social media. And now my constituents have got to go to the polls again. And the two combined will be £35,000 courtesy of a party that wants to cut waste in local government.
I'll tell you one last thing they might like to think about, Mark. That is the fact that with his highly principled resignation from his position as Health Secretary, West Streeting cost the taxpayer £17,000. He will get a £17,000 payoff for quitting as Health Secretary so he can pursue his own ambitions. That strikes me as kind of wrong as well.
Well, look, we at the moment, as I understand it, we don't technically have a leadership contest in the Labour Party because someone has to get these 81 names. Wes has, talked a good game but doesn't seem to have the names, at least not yet. Andy Burnham isn't even in the House of Commons. I think we've just covered that. Angela Rayner is hinting that she isn't going to run. Al Khan's, a defence minister, is hinting that he is going to run. Now, he's got the military cross and the DSO, which I respect, but I don't think he's got 81 names. So it is complete and utter chaos. We have a Prime Minister whose authority is undoubtedly massively dented, but who's promised to go and campaign for the man he did in. And we may or may not have a leadership contest, and we may or may not have a number of candidates. People around the world must look at this and think, we've all gone mad.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers. What a way to run around, right?
It really is. David Lammy said earlier, the electorate will forgive us for short-term infighting, but they won't forgive us for long-term infighting. I got bad news for him. They won't forgive you, Mr. Lammy, for either.
I'm so sorry. It's the David Lammy who famously said on Celebrity Mastermind that Henry VIII was succeeded as King of England by Henry VII. Well, that David Lammy.
Yeah, that is exactly the same David Lammy. Unfortunately, he's a very powerful man. No one knows why. Mark, really good to have you on the show. Come on again soon. That was Mark Francois, their Shadow Defence Minister, Chairman of the European Research Group, the ERG, and Conservative MP for Rayleigh and Whitfield. Next up, Samara Gill, who was at both of these protests on Saturday, as I was. Will be in. We will deliver our joint reports, if you like. We weren't together, but I think we both witnessed the same kind of thing. You've got the Prime Minister and Sadiq Khan. Oh, the hatred at the far right demonstration. There wasn't any. I know this. I was there. And there was a hell of a lot of hatred at the Nakba. Jew hatred. You know what I'm saying? Why don't either the Prime Minister or the Mayor of London mention that? They're just talking about the hatred at the far right demo. There wasn't any there. There was a lot of the other demo, but they didn't mention that. This is just two-tier disgusting, I would say that is. That next, stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Samara Gill is in the studio, and Samara was working. She went to both of Saturday's protests, to the Unite the Kingdom, the right of centre protest, if you like, with all the flags and the Union Jacks and the Red Crosses and all that. And she also went to the Nakba pro-Palestine demonstration, and I went to both, not working. I just went to have a look, and I can tell you, I think Samara will confirm it. The Prime Minister on Friday, well, let's just remind, this is what the Prime Minister released on Friday, a video that many people believe was an attempt to stir up tension, stir up trouble, to get the fight he wanted so that he could start chucking people in prison and say, look, I'm a really strong, decisive leader, and also demonise what he calls the far right along the way. Let's remind ourselves of what Starmer said on Friday.
My government will not stand in the way of peaceful protest, but we will act decisively against hatred. We will use the full force of the law when that hatred manifests as violence. And we will ban those coming into the UK who seek to stir it up, as we have done already. Because this country belongs to all of us. And I will not tolerate anyone who seeks to stand in the way of that.
Well, tough luck, Mr. Starmer. That peaceful protest that you spoke about was what happened. The Unite the Kingdom was an pretty much entirely peaceful protest. Very good-natured, very friendly. People having a good time, waving their flags, all dressed as St. George, that kind of nonsense. I went there, expecting to experience a cauldron of hatred, and this is what I found. I made a little film and put it on Twitter. Here we are at the Unite the Kingdom rally here in Parliament Square. Tommy Robinson's on the stage at the moment. I'll tell you one thing. Yesterday the Prime Minister was talking about not tolerating hatred. There's no hatred here. The atmosphere is friendly, peaceful, no hate whatsoever. So, welcome to London. I don't know about the other, the Nakba demonstration. I don't know whether there's much hate there. My hunch is there is, against Israel, against Jews. No hatred here, though. Well, I proceeded to the Nakba protest after that in Pall Mall, and by the way, there's no masks at Unite the Kingdom either. No. Went to Pall Mall, and it was like a sort of Dick Turpin lookalike contest. Everybody had a mask on. Yeah. And, those keffir scarves. There was a lot of, globalise the intifada, from the river to the sea, jihad, kill all the Jews, death to the IDF. Really nasty atmosphere there. With lots of masked people. And that's where the hatred was, Jew hatred. So this characterisation by the Prime Minister, and then this morning, the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, Samara, put out a statement condemning all the, what he called Islamophobic hate incidents that happened at the far-right demonstration. Well, I don't think there particularly were any. But the police are now searching for 7 hate criminals for, illegal chanting and sloganising at the Nakba event, and that was Jew hatred, anti-Semitism. So, this
7 people.
Yeah, they're looking for 7.
Yeah, there were a few more there.
Yeah, but these are people. The police today.
They could start with Zara Sultana, who was chanting from the river to the sea.
Yeah. So that's the point. Whatever you think about the Unite the Kingdom demonstration, I reject the idea it was purely a Tommy Robinson event.
It wasn't purely.
He was there, but there were lots of people who didn't even really know who he was. Whatever you think about that, the atmosphere was friendly and good-natured. At Nakba, it was really sinister. Fact. And yet, the Prime Minister and Sadiq Khan are portraying all the hatred at the Unite the Kingdom event, and they're not even mentioning the Nakba event. This is disgusting two-tierism, isn't it?
It really is, and that's why I think it's really important that we have our own journalism here at Talk, where we do have boots on the ground. And I can tell you that it is a two-tier justice sort of issue now when you're seeing them try and prosecute those who attended the Unite the Kingdom march, and then not really care about the heavily violent Nakba march that went on alongside that. I mean, let's just show a clip of what they were saying about Tommy Robinson and his supporters.
Let's do it.
Elsewhere. So they've just said that they want to hang Tommy Robinson and shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk. It's getting very aggressive.
Yeah, it was palpable.
So death chance.
I mean, it was palpable. I mean, you know, I was quite recognised at the Unite the Kingdom march, and unfortunately I was also recognised at Nakba. Right. Put it this way, I didn't get a very friendly reception at the latter. I mean, I think they wanted to stab me, shoot me in the neck as well. These are really nasty people there.
Well, you can clearly see the double standard, and when you think, okay, well, if Tommy Robinson got on stage, or any of those speakers at the rally and said, let's go and shoot all illegals when they step on our doorstep of this country, which is a horrible thing to say. And again, those people, if they said that, should be brought to justice. But they didn't say that. The death chants were only happening on that Nakba pro-Palestine side. And I think you can really see how they get away with just so much. You know, I think people are most enraged by Sadiq Khan coming out and saying this stuff about Islamophobia, for the fact that he has never really come out this strong in support of the Jewish people. He hasn't gone and attended Golders Green where that terrorist attack happened. He didn't go when the Hatzolah ambulance was set on fire. There are no reports of that. Maybe he went with his Range Rover motorcade in the middle of the night. But it just shows where his loyalties lie, and I don't think any Londoners are happy with that. I actually don't mind Labour having this sort of approach, but it needs to go both ways.
This is, but I mean, you know, the police have not announced this morning that they're looking for Islamophobic hate criminals, but they have announced they're looking for at least 7 anti-Semites who were chanting death to the IDF, from the river to the sea, all those illegal jihad chants, carrying illegal sloganising banners and posters as well. They're looking for 7. That's apart from the ones that were arrested. So they haven't announced they're looking for any Islamophobic hate criminals, but they have announced they're looking for some anti-Semitic hate criminals from the Nakba event. And if you look at the mayor's statement this morning, you wouldn't know that Nakba had even happened. There's no reference to that at all. This is disgusting, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, Keir Starmer having some sort of mental breakdown over what was going to happen this weekend and acting like it was going to be the end of days for the United Kingdom.
To be, didn't
he did. I think there was an agitating factor to the way that he posted that right on the precipice of the march, almost like he wanted people to
have to do that.
He didn't have to, you know, and I think that, again, if he had come out while they were having all these putrid pro-Palestine protests weekend after weekend with chants and horribleness, and, you know, I would go so far as to say some hate crimes were chanted on pro-Palestine marches, then I would think, oh, okay, Starmer, you're just not happy with, you know, the use of policing and the way that a lot of foreign interference has slipped onto the streets, because there is an element of that. There is an element of both sides being totally indoctrinated online and then going onto the streets and protesting about it. But it only goes one way, and that's the infuriating thing about people like Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer. They can only see what they believe is right and wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, demonising the right eulogising the left. Oh, these Nakbar people they were the ones who were committing all the hate crimes. Nasty atmosphere there. Loads of people wearing masks, cafes. You know, as I say, it was like a Dick Turpin lookalike contest.
No facial recognition for them, though.
Exactly. That's
absolutely not.
That's the other element that the police beforehand said we're going to be using facial recognition technology to look at for the troublemakers at the United Kingdom demonstration, but not at Nakbar. That's again.
Damn, they could have caught those anti-Semites if they had the facial recognition on the actual dangerous section of the protest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just totally two-tier. You know, if you're from the left, you get away almost literally with murder. If you're from the right, they're just down on you like a ton of bricks. But as Samara and I can both tell you, if you went to both of those events on Saturday, as we did, it was a party atmosphere at the United Kingdom. I must admit, I had a good time there. It was good fun and nice. You know, people.
I was working,
people just enjoying themselves. At Nakbar, really sinister atmosphere, really nasty, with lots of death chants. So the great and the good, our political leaders are deliberately characterising this incorrectly. All the hate is with Tommy Robinson and his lot, whereas Nakbar was full of love. No, not true. It's the other way round, and that is a fact. What do we make, folks, of the fact that our alleged leader, Keir Starmer, and the Mayor of London are deliberately, in my view, mischaracterising these two demonstrations? What do you make of that? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to Samara Gill for more excellent reporting. Next up, we're going to talk to the political editor of The Independent about Andy Burnham trying to tell the people of Makerfield that he doesn't want to get back into the EU. Well, as Mark Francois was just telling me, he wrote all about it in a book 2 years ago. He can say he doesn't want to talk about it now, but he does want us to get back into the EU, and the people of Makerfield are staunch Brexiteers. Is he just going to try and sort of hide that under a bush or something? Because that ain't going to work. 0344 499 1000. That next. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He's the political editor at the Independent newspaper, David Maddox. Hi, David.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm not sure that Andy Burnham's feeling all that great this morning. I mean, West Streeting, credit to him, that was a very Machiavellian political move to come right out and say, I want to rejoin the EU. It was like the mask slipping from all of Labour, all of Labour's cabinet. But what it actually implicitly also revealed is that's what Andy Burnham wants as well. Now, campaigning in Makerfield, his strategy seems to be, well, I don't want to talk about that at the moment. Well, that's not going to work. In Makerfield, they are staunch Brexiteers. Obviously, Reform UK are going to make it the big banner issue. That guy, Burnham, he wants to take you back into the Brussels Club. That is a fact. He wrote about it 2 years ago in a book. He can't deny it. That's going to be a killer for him, isn't it?
I'm not sure yet if it's a killer for him, but I can tell you for a fact that everybody thinks that West Streeting's speech was designed to completely scupper Andy Burnham in Makerfield. And, if you think that West Streeting wants, and his supporters want Andy Burnham to fail, and Downing Street also wants Andy Burnham to fail in Makerfield, then I think I'm here to tell you that that is definitely the case. They don't want him back, either of them.
Yeah, and the people of Makerfield, I mean, this is not an ideal constituency for Andy to fight as part of his comeback bid, is it? Because the people of Makerfield at the election, the nearest sort of council statistics you can employ, because Makerfield doesn't fit nicely into a council region, but that Makerfield area voted at the local election to put 23 out of 25 Reform UK candidates into office. It was a turquoise landslide. And what are they voting for? They're voting for what Reform UK stand for. They want not to get closer to Europe. They want a massive crackdown on the migrant crisis. And by the way, they're not very happy about net zero either, because it's given them sky-high energy prices. Burnham is going in there representing the party that stands for everything that the people of Makerfield detest.
Well, you say that. I think Burnham's going in there representing Andy Burnham. I think that's it's Andy Burnham for Prime Minister. That's essentially the pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, the Labour MPs I speak to agree that if this was just Labour versus Reform, Makerfield would be a Reform constituency after the by-election. What makes it close is that Andy Burnham's got a personality there. He's kind of well known in the Northwest, Greater Manchester Mayor, charismatic politician, can kind of rise above all these things, or at least that's what they're calculating, and that's what he's calculating. But even then, people are saying to me, well, it's 50-50. It could go either way. So, there's a big risk for him that he's going to lose. And actually, it's a dreadful risk for the Labour Party, because we've basically got a zombie government now until this by-election, and then they're hoping Andy Burnham wins, and then they can crown him the new leader and prime minister essentially. But if not, then we've got weeks and weeks more of infighting and civil war, and Keir Starmer not being able to do anything, and that's the worst of all worlds, really.
So, arguably, the mistake that Reform UK made at the Gorton and Denton by-election, when Hannah Spencer won for the Greens, was they sent up to this solid northern working-class community a sort of southern academic, Matt Goodwin. Good guy and all that, but I don't think the, down-to-earth people of Gorton and Denton particularly identified with him. So Reform UK are clearly not going to make that mistake again. And obviously the watchword now at Westminster is local plumbers win elections, because Hannah Spencer was a plumber who won the Gorton and Denton, beat the Reform UK mob, and Reform UK looks set now to put up as their candidate in Makerfield a local plumber, a pipe fitter called Robert Kenyon. So I do think that is the smart thing to do, because Andy Burnham has got sort of halfway local credentials up there. Although he's Manchester, and I'm told the people of Makerfield hate being told they're part of Manchester. They still put Lancashire on their letterheads, on their addresses, apparently. They don't like the Manchester tag. But a local plumber, if Robert Kenyon is a good candidate, he's got the right background, he's a local man, could be a strong contender there, couldn't he?
Well, he's done it before. He was a 2024 election candidate. I'm told that he is going to be the candidate, by the way, but they haven't confirmed it yet. They'll confirm it in the next day or two. But he, the way you win by-elections, whatever party you are, isn't actually to parachute in some superstar or somebody you think is a superstar or somebody you think is going to be in your cabinet. It's to go local, heavily local, get somebody with local roots and fight it for somebody who's going to represent that community. And that's doubly wise for Reform to do it in this one, because they're essentially up against somebody who wants to be Prime Minister. And his whole pitch of basically to the people of Makerfield is vote for me because I'll become Prime Minister. Whereas the pitch of Reform's candidate, if it is Robert Kenyon, will be vote for me because I want to represent you. I'm one of your local councillors. I'm a local boy. I think he was in the army, worked for the NHS, plumber. He's got his hands dirty.
Got it all, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got it all. So that's the ideal sort of candidate. I'm actually surprised Reform haven't paraded him out already. I can only assume that Nigel's waiting for a space in his diary to go up there and and announce him officially, but he's the obvious person to do it, and he's exactly the sort of person who can take on Andy Burnham.
Last question to you, David. Thanks for coming on, as always. Do you have any inside intel on why Lee Anderson is taking over as Reform chairman and David Bull seems to be stepping down? That came out of the blue. What's going on there, do you think?
Well, I immediately thought of the old adage, it's a good day to announce bad news, because they clearly didn't want people to take much notice of it when that popped out.
You're right about that.
Because it's such a busy news day. I don't know if there are any issues with David Bull. I mean, he seemed to be quite a popular chairman as far as I could see. Maybe they wanted somebody based in Parliament and more on the kind of nitty-gritty side. I mean, I think it's a role that really suits Lee Anderson. I have to say that. He's a good on-the-ground campaigner and organiser, and maybe that's what they were looking for. But yeah, I could tell you, it was quite a big surprise.
Yeah,
and clearly one they didn't want people to talk about a lot.
Yeah, interesting, because David Bull, of course, formerly of this parish, a presenter here on Talk, or an ex-presenter on Talk. So, we're in the dark as well. It came out of the blue, that one, David. Fascinating times. Good to talk to you, mate. Thanks for coming on. David Maddox, the excellent political editor of The Independent there. Got a fantastic track record breaking the big stories. He's the one who first revealed last September that Peter Mandelson had failed his security tests. His national security state secret test. And it was months before the rest of the press caught up. David was responsible for that exclusive, so he's done some great work. Right, next up, we're going to talk about David Lammy, is indicating he's the Justice Secretary, you remember, as well as Deputy Prime Minister. He's talking about imprisoning parents who don't do a good job of bringing their kids up. So if their kids turn out to be tearaways, breaking the law, he's suggesting that mums and dads should go to jail. I mean, being a bad parent is not a good thing, but it shouldn't be a criminal offence, should it? I mean, this is Britain, not North Korea, Dave. 03444991000. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know, socialist Labour people tend to be slightly illiberal. You know, they're always all for laws, rules, regulations, diktats, you know, ordering us to do that, forcing us to do this. You know, that's what socialists are like. They want to stick their nose into your lives and order you around. But even by socialist standards, this one is a bit beyond the pale, if you ask me. David Lammy wants to send parents to jail if they're not very good at being mums and dads and their kids turn into tearaways. Well, you know, nobody's going to condone bad parenting, but surely it's stretching a bit to send people to jail because they didn't tell their kids off when they did something wrong. Let's talk to Chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, Chris McGovern, former head teacher, of course. Chris, yeah, I mean, I'm all for encouraging parents to be better at it, to keep their tearaway kids in order. And it's lamentable when people turn out to be very, very poor mothers and fathers. Lots of people do. But David Lammy's suggestion that perhaps if you're a bad parent and your kid breaks the law, you should go to jail. I mean, that's pushing it a bit, isn't it?
It's pushing it a bit, but I think you're going a bit soft, you know. The thing is, the problem here, we have to be fair to Lammy, I'm not a great supporter of Lammy, but he's thinking of Southport. If those parents had informed the police there were 3 girls who were slaughtered, you know, I think he's looking at those sort of very serious cases. So I want to be a little bit fair to the government. If it's a very serious case and a repetition of Southport, yeah, by all means send those parents to prison. They're very hard decisions. What we do know, Kevin, is that around the world, the countries which have very successful education systems have maximum parent support and parent involvement. So, you know, you go to places such as Vietnam, Korea, South Korea, that is not North, Japan, China, you have really good parental support, and perhaps in this country we're not getting enough parental support for our kids. And I think what the government are trying to do rightly to say, look, we need to get parents more involved, because legally it's parents who are the first educators of their children. So I've got some sympathy for what Lem is trying to do here.
Yeah, I just think perhaps it's not the sort of thing you should legislate for. You should certainly encourage parents to be better at it, but sending them to jail I think might be stretching it. However, what has happened to parenting, Chris? I mean, I'm not an expert on the subject. I don't have kids, but I'm often on the tube or I'm in restaurants or just walking around, and there are these, you know, there are a couple of parents or a single parent. They got a couple of kids who are like running around, you know, chucking things at the other passengers, shouting, screaming, causing havoc. And you're sitting there thinking, I don't quite do it, but I will one day. You want to turn around at them and say, will you tell your kid to stop behaving like this? And yet they don't. They just smile at them. And I would say that is a microcosm for the macrocosm of what we're talking about, that somehow or other, millions of parents don't seem to feel it's their job to discipline their children. How has that come about? It didn't used to be the case when I was a kid.
I'll let me tell you a story then, a little story. And I began my teaching career many decades ago now, taught in a big comprehensive school in Yorkshire, 2,000 kids. There's a boy there, I call him Johnny, but he wasn't called Johnny really, and he was a big fan of Leeds United. And I remember him going to a match and he crashed a bottle over the head of an opposing team supporter. And he got put in, you know, he got banned from going back to Ellen Road, the Leeds ground. Then about 6 months later, I asked him, I was teaching him history on a Friday afternoon. I said, Johnny, what are you doing this weekend? So I'm going to the football. I said, no, you're not. You're not. The courts have said you're not allowed to go to the football, Johnny. He said, well, I'm okay because I can go with my dad as long as my dad is there to supervise me. So he went to the football. And on the Monday, I said to Johnny, how'd you get on at the football? Did you get arrested again? He says, no, I didn't. You said, but my dad did. And that's a true story. Now, this is not totally new.
Well, that is it, isn't it, Chris? I mean, as I say, this is obviously anecdotal, but I remember as a kid, it doesn't matter. But parents admonishing their kids in public was a kind of generic thing, but whether it was an upper class family, middle or lower class people, parents say, hey, stop annoying people. Why don't parents do that anymore?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I also remember that same school, one Yorkshire dad telling me about this lad I had a few problems with at the time. He said, Mr. McGovern, any problems with him, you stamp on his fingernails. Now, I didn't do that, of course, but it certainly shut the kid up. Now, look, we've got a problem here because actually, and let's be fair, teachers are dealing with this problem every day. There's you there whining on about the behaviour of kids. You want to get in front of a class, see what it's like on a Friday afternoon with 15.
I don't think I do.
It's tough. So have a bit of sympathy for teachers, It's hard. And I think parents are a lot to blame because we've got kids coming into primary school now and they can't even use a toilet, It's really hard for teachers. So I criticise my colleagues sometimes, but look, some of these teachers are heroic figures. They're working in areas which most people couldn't survive in. The police can't deal with it. Parents can't deal with it. You can't deal with it. I would find it difficult, but they are doing a good job in many cases. But ultimately, we've got to have more parental involvement. And some of these parents, by the way, and I know this because I've worked with them, they can't read and write themselves. They've been through our education system. They don't know what education means, So you've got to turn the clock back. You've got to train the parents. You've got to get the parents interested in education, but parents are everything. They're crucial. Legally, they are the people in charge of a child's education. So how do you turn the clock back? With difficulty, but you need some leadership, and you've got to help parents to help the kids. You've got to get to the parents somehow.
Chris, I wish you were still involved in education. I really do. Get back into those schools and sort those kids out because nobody is at the moment. No. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. As always, Chris McGovern there, the excellent chairman of the Campaign for Real Education. He's a retired head teacher. You heard what he said. Perhaps we're trapped in a sort of vicious cycle that kids are not getting educated properly. They come out of school and they don't look after their own kids properly. They don't get taught properly at school, and it's downhill all the way. But putting mums and dads in jail for not being very good at disciplining their kids, do you think that should be an imprisonable offence? Has Chris got a point? Has David Lammy got a point? Or am I right? That's going a bit far. I don't know. What do you think? I'm a libertarian, but you may disagree with me. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, it's Isabel Oakeshott after the news. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. By the way, in about 20 minutes, we'll be talking about France. You know that 662 million quid that Shabana Mahmoud, the Home Secretary, just gave to France to carry on not stopping the boats? Well, France have confirmed that's pretty much what will happen. They said, well, it won't make any difference. Thanks for the money, but it won't make any difference. That's good, isn't it? So we've given them like well over £1 billion over the last 3 or 4 years to patrol their own beaches, and they're there, you give us all the money you like, won't make any difference. Well, we know that. How come Shabana Mahmoud doesn't know that? We'll talk about that in a little while. Also, we need to talk about the BBC. Scott Mills, that Radio 2 breakfast DJ, is fixing to sue the Beeb for wrongful dismissal, alleged wrongful dismissal. So big trouble at the state broadcaster on the day that the new Director General Matt Britton starts his tenure. Fran Arnsworth, former head of news there, is also saying that you got serious political problems, political extremist problems in the newsroom, saying that she, head of news from I think 2018 to 2022, was kicked out of her job because she refused to kowtow to the trans lobby. So the trans lobby is a very seriously strong influencer, stopping impartiality in the BBC newsroom. Shocking, shocking. We'll talk about that next, later. But first of all, let's go over to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good afternoon.
I want to talk first about Saturday, the 2 demonstrations in London, dueling demos, if you like. One was the Unite the Kingdom event, a lot of flag waving, you know, Union Jacks, St George's crosses, wrongly actually in my view characterised as Tommy Robinson's rally. Tommy Robinson's there, big organiser of it, but to say that everyone went on that as a Tommy Robinson fanatic, just not true. A lot of people attracted to that event to say no to Starmer, to say no to this Labour government, to say no to this Labour government making it clear it wants us to rejoin the EU, to say no to net zero, no to not cracking down on the migrant crisis, all of that. That's what that was all about. I went there, and there was a very good-natured, friendly atmosphere. Now, first of all, you had Keir Starmer sort of prejudging what Saturday would be like when he made, that we discussed on Friday, but let's just remind ourselves of the, in my view, incendiary video that he put out on Friday before the Saturday demos.
My government will not stand in the way of peaceful protest, but we will act decisively against hatred. We will use the full force of the law when that hatred manifests as violence. And we will ban those coming into the UK who seek to stir it up, as we have done already, because this country belongs to all of us, and I will not tolerate anyone who seeks to stand in the way of that.
Meanwhile, Isabel, this morning, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, put out a statement that began, there were many appalling Islamophobic incidents yesterday, including, this was yesterday, he put this statement out, my apologies, so he put this out yesterday morning. There were many appalling Islamophobic incidents yesterday, including on the stage of the far-right protest, which I know will be deeply concerning to many, and so on and so forth. Now, I went to both, just to check them out, to, you know, dust down my notebook, if you like. I went to Unite the Kingdom. Very friendly, good-natured atmosphere. Bit of drinking going on, to be honest with you. Bit of a party atmosphere. Lots of flags waving, people dressed as St George. No hatred, no masks, nothing like that. And then I went to Nakbar. Very sinister atmosphere. Loads of people wearing keffiyeh scarves, masks, all shouting about kill Tommy Robinson, shoot the Israelis, shoot the Jews, you know, river to the sea, and so on and so forth, calling for murder, calling for violence. Keir Starmer is only saying, if there's any hatred, I will not tolerate it. Well, there wasn't any hatred at Unite the Kingdom. There was a hell of a lot of hatred at Nakbar. And neither Starmer nor Sadiq Khan even acknowledged that Nakbar was going on. They just said, all the hatred will be at the right-wing event, the far-right event. It was not there. These two men are mischaracterising what happened on Saturday, and I'm here to tell you.
Well, thank you for that, Kev. I actually enjoyed the clips that you put out of your time, your experience, your first-hand experience at these marches. And there's nothing like actually being there to actually feel the atmosphere and whether or not something is being misrepresented. And it was quite clear that Keir Starmer had decided what the narrative was going to be well before the march even happened, when he put out that very divisive and frankly inflammatory statement. And you're right. I mean, there were awful scenes at the other march. There's always going to be a few people who behave very badly on the fringes of these events. And I'm happy to say that in relation to the pro-Palestinian marches too. It's about sort of whether the overall feel of something is aggressive and hateful and toxic and so on. And I don't think anyone could characterize the Unite the Union march in that way. Of course, there's always going to be the odd arrest at these things, and no one wants to see anything like that. But it is typical of any march.
Yeah, there were 43 arrests at both events. And in the light of Sadiq Khan's statement, there was so many Islamophobic incidents. Well, I haven't heard of any. I didn't hear anyone shouting about kill the Muslims or anything like that. It was all positive. I mean, I'm not here to bang the drum for anyone. I'm just telling you what I saw. Frankly, it was pretty good fun at Unite the Kingdom because everyone was having a party, and they weren't calling for people to be killed or nations to be annihilated. At Nakbar, it was like, you know, the sinister polar opposite, a really nasty atmosphere, calling for death and, you know, destroy Israel, death to the IDF, you know, from the river to the sea, when will Palestine be free? All of this stuff. So that's where, you know, that's the truth, that the hatred was at Nakbar, and neither the Prime Minister or the Mayor of London are prepared to acknowledge that that's where the hate was. Jew hate, anti-Semitism. They've got their pantomime villains and they will not be budged.
Exactly that. It's much easier for them just to stick with that narrative and that interpretation. I guess what they're referring to is that moment, and I don't know whether you saw it, Kev, when there were a number of women who came on the platform, I believe, wearing burqas. Were you there for that?
No, I missed that, Joy.
So I think I've got this right anyway. I think there were a number of women that came on the stage wearing burqas and then symbolically removed them. Now, they were not apparently Muslim women. And so there's been a great deal of controversy about this. And I think Julia Hartley-Brewer has been talking about it on her show today. You know, you can take different views on whether or not that was, you know, unnecessarily inflammatory. I think what it was supposed to be is symbolic. You know, there are many people in the UK who view those sorts of garments for women as repressive and against what UK values are all about. And I think that was the point that was trying to be made there. And I think it was probably deliberately provocative, as people often are when they're making a political point.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about Makerfield. Obviously, West Streeting and knew exactly what he was doing when on Friday he made that speech. Or was it Saturday? Over the weekend, anyway, he made that speech saying, you know, not only, you know, should we rejoin, you know, I want us to rejoin the EU. It's like the mask of the whole Labour cabinet slipping there. But he knew what he was doing. because he's made life very, very difficult for Andy Burnham. Now, Andy Burnham's strategy now with the staunch Brexiteer population of Makerfield seems to be, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to persuade them that I'm not going to talk about the EU right now. He used that phrase in a speech this morning. I'm not about to talk about it right now. In fact, let's have a look at Andy and his right nowism this morning.
My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. Britain will be stuck in a permanent rut if we're just constantly arguing and people are pulling away from each other. I am not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum, and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote.
Yeah, he kept saying right now. We're not going to join now. Now, good luck, Andy, persuading the people of Makerfield, you know, that you'll never want to rejoin, because you wrote it in a book 2 years ago. He wants to rejoin. He's not just a Remainer, he's a rejoiner. Now, the people of Makerfield are staunch Brexiteers. Reform are going to ram that down his throat. How can he persuade the people of that fine constituency to vote for him when he stands for something that they absolutely, passionately detest?
Well, I said on Friday, when this by-election campaign was less than 24 hours old, that I thought that Andy Burnham had made a massive miscalculation. I happen to like Andy Burnham. I think he's a good guy. I think he's much more human than Keir Starmer. I think he can have a sort of normal, non-robotic conversation with people, which Keir Starmer clearly can't. But he is out there as a strident Remainer. And that is not going to do him any favours whatsoever in that constituency. I mean, I don't think people in that constituency are just obsessing about whether or not Brexit has or hasn't been a success, or whether it's been actually genuinely delivered, apart from the technicality of, well, we have left the EU and we could do something good with that ability. But I don't think that's what they particularly obsess about. But when my researcher and colleague Christian Drogan was up in the constituency on Friday, just didn't find any warmth for Andy Burnham. You know, there was just none of this King of the North thing in that constituency. And I also know, because Reform was out there campaigning all day yesterday, and there have been extraordinary pictures of the number of activists they flooded the constituency with. Yeah. By the way, I have warned them, you know, if you do this every day, people in the constituency might start getting a little bit cross with what a circus it's turned into. But what an amazing turnout it was yesterday. And I think the feedback on the doors was very good. And I'm not saying that just as a sort of pro-reform mouthpiece. You know, if I had heard that it was a tricky day, or that it was sort of 50-50, I would tell you, but that isn't what I've heard. And that tallies with what Christian found on Friday when he went up and spent the day talking to a whole variety of people before they'd got bored of talking to reporters.
Exactly. Now, I think the watchword at Westminster now, after Hannah Spencer beat Reform UK in Gorton and Denton, I think the watchword at Westminster is local plumbers win elections. And in that respect, local plumber, pipe fitter Robert Kenyon is said to be among the leading contenders who he'll go on to become perhaps Reform UK's candidate to go up against Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham is, of course, going to play the King of the North. I'm a local man, I live in the area. But Pete Barnes, our Pete Barnes from Talk, he is from Makerfield, born and bred. His family lived there. And he said to me on Friday, he said, if Andy Burnham goes around saying, hey, I'm the King of Manchester, I'm the Mayor of Manchester, don't you love me for that? He said the people of Makerfield will hate it, absolutely hate it, because although they are in the greater Manchester area, as ordained, you know, by the Boundaries Commission, they hate the idea of being regarded as part of Manchester, to the extent that none of them use Manchester in their address. They use Lancashire. They don't like the Manchester angle. So another problem for Andy Burnham, that if this Robert Kenyon, and if he does become the guy, he's very much from the local area, not Manchester. He'll beat Andy on the local front as well.
Well, he did really well in the 2024 election without a huge party machine behind him, without hundreds of people over the course of the campaign being able to go up and campaign on his behalf. He actually got a really good result. So I would have thought he would make a very strong contender for that seat. And, the party, as I think has been discussed on some of our other shows today, ran a sort of perceived to be a London-based candidate, Matt Goodwin, in the last by-election. And Matt is a brilliant political analyst and utterly dedicated to saving our country. But he was, as you pointed out, beaten by a plumber. So
a local plumber, that's the point.
Maybe Reform will think maybe we'll try a different strategy with this one, and so lucky that there is potentially this very, very strong local candidate if that is the route that Nigel Farage chooses to go down.
I've always said that one of the big problems with the House of Commons is it's too full of lawyers. Well, the way things are going, the direction of travel now in the future will all be going. The trouble with the House of Commons is it's full of plumbers.
Well, that is a big problem because there aren't enough plumbers who are actually doing the plumbing job.
That's right.
So I'm not sure I'm in favour of them all going to be MPs, actually. We need them.
I need a plumber right now. That's a very good point, Isabel. Let's talk about Reform UK again. I mean, this is an announcement that came from nowhere. We at Talk have a sort of, I guess, a slightly personal interest in it because it concerns our former colleague, a presenter here, Dr. David Bull, who was the chairman of Reform UK, has been working very hard for them. All of a sudden, today, a quick press release announces he's gone and will be concentrating on being a candidate at the general election for Reform UK. And Lee Anderson is the chairman. I mean, what has happened there? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to go too much into detail on this because it's not for me to do that. But I think it would be fair to say that there are always by-elections coming up, aren't there? As is evidenced by this sudden one that we've got. And David would make such a brilliant MP. He is
would.
really.
I agree with that. Yeah.
He really would, and he's one of these people. I know David really well. He is a rare case of somebody who would actually love being just a constituency MP, if that is as far as he ever went. And I'm not saying he shouldn't go all the way to the top and become health secretary or whatever. He'd be also brilliant at that. My point is that he would love doing that kind of bread and butter constituency work where you can really change people's lives. Now, there are very few MPs that are satisfied just with that. A lot of them, I'm afraid to say, see their constituency work as a little bit of a bore. It's like it's a distraction from what they really want to do, which is climb the career ladder, become ministers, swan around and be in their ministerial cars. David would never be like that. And I think he'd be a massive asset to Reform's parliamentary party, which is still very small. It's easy to forget because there's so much kind of speculation and pressure and expectation that maybe Reform will form the next government. I mean, they still have, I don't know, I don't even know the number, but about 10 MPs, maybe around about that. It's hardly anything in the big picture. So I imagine that what Nigel Farage is thinking is, look, should a seat come up soon, and it won't take people very much to work out where those vacancies might arise, then is it a good idea for David maybe to be able to have some breathing space to prepare for that? That's what I think is probably going on here.
Could be, and also should Reform gain the power that they are optimistic they will get at the next general election, I don't think they could do much better than David Bull as Health Secretary because he talks a very good game when it comes to the NHS. But interesting times and great to talk to you, Isabel. Thank you very much. That's Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International. international editor. Next up, we're going to talk to Robert Bates at the Centre for Migration Control about this extraordinary admission by the French that the 662 million quid Shabana Mahmood gave them about 3 weeks ago to patrol their beaches properly, stop the boats, stop the migrants, won't make any difference. They'll keep on coming. Isn't that special? 03444 99 1000. We'll talk about that next.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let me know what you think about the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. Andrew Lowney, the royal author, is now revealing that at one of those shoots that the royal family like, they love to go out the weekend slaughtering as many birds and animals. The royal family are never happy unless they've got a gun in their hand and they're killing animals. They love that sort of thing. So they're having a shoot, blasting poor innocent birds out of the air. And, you know, they're all standing around, there's sausage rolls. And apparently Andrew's dog, a black Labrador, sort of jumped up and nicked a sausage roll, as dogs tend to do. And Andrew shocked the guests by turning around and kicking his dog really hard in the head. And then one of the guests said, "You shouldn't do that. That's cruel. Leave your dog alone." Andrew just told him to get lost. Later on, the Duke of Edinburgh went up to the guest who'd been brave enough to say, "Don't kick your dog," and said, "I'm glad you said that. It's about time someone said that to him." Yeah, well, Prince Philip and the rest of, why didn't you say it to him? You know, this guy, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the picture that it's emerging is that he was just allowed to get away with everything his whole life, and that turned him into the biggest idiot, pompous, presumptuous idiot, entitled fool on the face of the planet. What do you think about a man who kicks his own dog in the head? 03444991000, because I'll tell you this, I don't think a lot of anybody like that. Let's have a quick listen to a voice note. This one's from Carol on the weekend's protests.
I was at the UTK march on Saturday and I witnessed some shocking behaviour from the far-right thugs. They were playing far-right volleyball with dangerous plastic beach balls and, even worse, throwing far-right paper aeroplanes, which could have had someone's eye out. They were walking on cracks in the pavement, walking their cute dogs, covered in flags without due care and attention, and steering their Zimmer frames in a dangerous and reckless manner through the crowds, shouting, "Make way, far-right thugs coming through." Seriously though, massive numbers of young and old, black, brown and white, proud veterans, disabled people, English, Scots, Irish, Welsh, Israelis, Iranians, Europeans were all united and marched in massive numbers in peace, love and solidarity, waving our beautiful, glorious and colourful flags, despite the threats and hateful and provocative rhetoric from Keir Starmer, which, by the way, backfired spectacularly by galvanising some that hadn't originally planned to go. Oh dear, Keir, you got it wrong again, you silly sausage. Keep the faith, everyone. Starmer, Street and Burnham, Rayner, this lot are a complete shambles. General election incoming.
Vote for Carol, I say. Well put, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can't vouch for the whole day. I was there for, I don't know, an hour or so in the afternoon, so I can't vouch for the whole march or anything. But what I saw confirms exactly what Carol said. It was like a family outing. Lots of people of colour there. Loads of Iranians, sort of Persian fans who want to get rid of the Ayatollah. So there's a alliance there between, if you like, the right and Iranians, traditional Persians. Interesting though. Carol's right. Carol's right. Let's move on to my next guest. We need to talk about France and the 660 million quid that we just gave it. He is Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Welcome, Robert.
Good evening, Gavin. Thanks for having me.
Now, the French, I mean, we're not especially surprised about this, but it still doesn't make it any less annoying. So, what was it, 3 weeks ago or so, Shabana Mahmoud, the Home Secretary, the latest hopeless Home Secretary, handed to France £662 million for what we cynically said was to carry on not stopping the boats. So far, so this now takes the amount of money we've given the French in about the past three and a half years to over £1 billion. The idea is the gendarmes patrol their northern beaches, stop the migrants, stop the boats, and they stop coming across the channel. At last count, they'd failed to do that in more than 2/3 of the cases. So the vast majority of migrants and small boats are taking off unimpeded by the French police. The French are now saying that that 662 million quid that Shabana Mahmoud gave them 3 weeks ago is a waste of time because, and I quote, it will not change a thing. We all know that. How come Shabana Mahmoud doesn't know that? Or does she know it and she's just trying to give herself a nice headline?
Well, I think she would be an absolute fool if she didn't realise that the deal with France was a waste of money. That didn't stop her, of course, throwing good money after bad and signing us up to another few years of this ridiculous agreement. But I think actually the candour here from the French side of this arrangement really just does illustrate how British politicians are putting all their hopes into this basket, and the French are sort of treating it as a side issue, as an inconsequential event. They're happy to take the money, they're happy to take the dune buggies, the drones and so forth, but they don't actually have an intention to help us achieve the objective of stopping the boats. I think actually a lot of what they are doing on the beaches is frankly performative, and it's simply going through the motions. I think there was a very interesting admission here from one of the French officials where they were basically saying, you know, we could be patrolling the beaches 24/7 with all the equipment that we could get our hands on, but it still would simply not stop the boats because they would just move to a different location. I think actually that awareness of how these flows work now, this is a crisis that's 8 years now rumbling on. We all know what the factors are, how things work, what the flows are, what the pull factors are, what the push factors are, and yet we don't seem to be addressing the fundamentals. We seem to be, this government's strategy seems to be just to pile on a load of piffle, a load of small fry measures in the hope that actually they will all just come together in a beautiful recipe and stop the boats. That just simply isn't how this will work. The only way this will work is if you get back to basics and start addressing the pull factors and start, as we say time and time again on the show, start implementing a policy of detention and deportation and addressing what makes people want to come to Britain, which is that we are seen as a land of milk and honey. If you take that away, people won't even be on the beaches for the French to stop, because they will simply realise it's not worth their time. So I think all agreement with France on this issue is going nowhere. The situation is actually worsening. They're doing less as more are coming across. The ratio of them, the individuals that they're stopping versus the individuals making it across, has been shifting in the wrong direction. So this is a deal that actually is going very, very sour. And I think, unfortunately, it is the British taxpayer that are having their money yet again thrown at a solution that isn't going to achieve anything.
Yeah, the deputy mayor in charge of security at Gravelines, the famous beach where so many migrants head off to the promised land, Britain, in their small boats. Alan Boniface is his name. He said, the money of the British will be used to secure a sector, but we only move a pile of sand. It starts from everywhere. It is a subject that must be dealt with on the global level. We have no solution. There will always be an influx of people who want to join the UK. So he's saying that, you know, all they can do is move a few piles of sand on the beach, that they're not going to stop anyone. So what we're being subjected to, I would suggest, by this latest desperate Home Secretary, desperate to prove that she, unlike the others, can do something about this escalating migrant crisis, what we're being subjected to is an empty publicity campaign. Look, here's a picture of me in North France. There's a boat behind me and this is the beach, and I've just given them £662 million to solve the migrant crisis. It's just performative claptrap, isn't it?
I think the last 18 months have shown what the Labour media strategy for this small boats crisis is. It's put out a catchy sounding headline, get it written up across the board, get it talked about, and then when actually it comes to scrutinising the detail, it's a lot harder to get across to people, just the sheer fact that it is failing. I think people have cottoned on that clearly no measure is working, but it's definitely not because the government are putting their hands up and telling the truth. And I think a great example of that is how we're seeing today the National Crime Agency sort of bragging about the number of arrests of people smugglers that they've conducted. Still only about 300 in a year, which is a woefully low number. But when you actually look at the detail of that, the number of convictions of people that have been involved in people smuggling has been falling for successive years now. So the situation there is getting worse, but it's being dressed up in this eye-catchy headline figure of a 55% increase in arrests. And I think actually there is a real disconnect here in terms of this being the immigration crisis being the number one issue that the public are concerned about, but actually the information that we are getting from the government, from official channels, is a half-truth at best. And this really actually obscures the way the debate should be going forward. And I think actually it's creating a democratic deficit, because if it allows a politician to think they can get away with warm-sounding words and tough-sounding measures, but then not actually follow through, then unfortunately the crisis is inevitably going to continue. Now, I think actually the Labour Party have gone as far as they can possibly go on talking about this in harsh terms. And actually, when the inevitable Labour leadership takes place, I think we'll see a lot of people tacking leftwards and talking in warm words, and probably words similar to the French mayor talking about global solutions to this problem. We don't need global solutions to this. We are an island. We have a natural geographical asset, which is the English Channel, and it's about time we started using that. We're not in a similar predicament as Germany or other Schengen countries where their borders are on land borders and wide open. We have a channel, we have a natural barrier, and it's about time we started using it.
Yeah, and the headline on this is, the French police shouldn't require British money to do their job, but not only do we give them money to do their job, we give them mountains of money. As I say, it now adds up to well over £1 billion in the last 3 or 4 years for them to do their job. But they don't do their job. We just see them time and time again smoking their gaulois, waving goodbye to the small boats, saying, enjoy Britain. The notion that France is going to help us solve the migrant crisis is just a fallacy, and it's a fallacy that Shabana Mahmood is trying to sell us as a fact.
Well, absolutely. And I think the risk here is if we allow this sort of crisis to seem like it has no solution, which is definitely what these kind of rumblings from and the Labour policy really leads to as a logical conclusion, then where else do they go? And I am very concerned that actually, all this talk of having closer resetting our relationship with Europe will see us getting involved with the EU's new migration and asylum compact. But actually, whilst it would, allow us to return individuals to France or other countries in Europe, as we are already trying to do with France and it's failing, we end up taking a larger number from those countries on the frontiers of Southern Europe or Eastern Europe. And I think, as the Channel crisis being one side of this, we also need to keep a very, very tight eye on where the Home Secretary is taking her talk of safe and legal routes, because she's doing that in cooperation with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. He identifies, there are 30 odd million individuals around the world who are potentially eligible for safe and legal routes. Where the heck does the cap come on that? And is that not just simply going to lead to huge numbers coming, but nominally coming legally, and therefore the objections of them being illegal are abated, but the costs are still there, the social costs, the cultural costs, the fiscal costs. And I just think there is so much going on here in terms of the incompetence mixed with an ideological desire to keep human rights front and centre of every policy debate that unfortunately, with this current government, it's very, very hard to see how we will get any control of our borders.
Good point. It's always human rights, isn't it? And there's no sign of this migrant crisis being solved because we still don't have any deterrents, only enticements. Unbelievable. Robert, great to have you on the show as always. Robert Bates there, Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control. The French saying that £662 million we just gave them, taking the total to over £1 billion for the French police to patrol their own beaches, won't make any difference. Not a blind bit of difference. We're being conned, aren't we, folks? 0344499 1000. Next up, let's talk about the BBC. The new Director General, Matt Britton, begins his tenure today with an in-tray full of nightmares. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. The new BBC Director General, Matt Britton, former Google man, that rare creature at the BBC, at the state broadcaster, someone who's worked somewhere else. Amazing. Worked for Google around the world for 10 years. But he has the in-tray from hell. How is he going to deal with it? Let's talk to campaign director from Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, Kevin.
Well, first up, Scott Mills, the Radio 2 breakfast DJ, the ex-Radio 2 breakfast DJ, is now apparently set to sue the BBC for wrongful dismissal. He apparently feels that he was victimised because the BBC is desperate to show how tough it is on celebrities, star presenters, who behave in a reprehensible manner sexually. This, of course, is due to its dubious background with people like Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris and Hugh Edwards and a whole list more. Scott Mills said, well, you suddenly turned around and sacked me for something that I was never charged with. The police dropped all investigation into me and you sacked me for that. And that's not right. I'm a victim. So he's going to sue them. That could be a very uncomfortable lawsuit for the BBC and the new Director General, Matt Britton, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And it seems sort of the timing with it when they sacked him was to sort of clean house before the new Director General came in. But obviously that's come back to bite them if they have been heavy-handed. But the thing is, we don't know what the additional information was that they found out supposedly before they got rid of Scott Mills. So that's why we need transparency from the BBC, because it will be licence fee payers who end up having to pay for this court case. So the BBC can't carry on behaving in this way, sort of just trying to either sweep things under the carpet or making huge moves like this without letting people know what's going on. That's the frustration.
Yeah, Scott Mills was, of course, investigated by the police historically for alleged offences against a boy that turned out to be underage. But that was like way back in the late 90s. That investigation was dropped. And Scott Mills, told the BBC that he had been under investigation. So his case is, you knew about this. The case was dropped. I wasn't charged. What are your reasons for firing me? He's got a very good point. If the police investigate and then charge, and then you're prosecuted, then you know why the BBC fired you. But if the police investigate you for something that they decide is not going to result in a conviction, which is what happens, and then the BBC fires you anyway, when charges against you have been dropped, you've got a case, and that will be not very comfortable, I think, for Matt Britton and the BBC going forward. Possibly more serious is the former head of news, Fran Unsworth, who was head of news, I think, from 2018 to 2022, has in a podcast said that the BBC has a serious problem with radical extremist politics, particularly from the trans lobby. And she says that when she stood up to the trans lobby and said, look, we have to report the trans issue from both sides, fair and balanced, she says she was effectively fired, that her view that they should take an impartial stance on trans issues resulted in her losing her job. And she says the BBC has a massive problem with these kind of extremists and the way they dictate issues are covered, and says that because of these trans extremists, the BBC was institutionally incapable of reporting on that issue in a biased, impartial and fair and balanced way. And I think that definitely stretches to the way they cover Israel, their policies on Gaza. She is saying that the BBC newsroom is institutionally dominated by extremist political views that preclude the possibility for proper, fair and balanced reporting. That's a serious allegation.
Absolutely. I mean, she's saying that progressive madness drove her out. And those are really strong words from the former head of news at the BBC. That's really strong. And also that she was saying that it's not just the trans issue, but that people just couldn't bear to hear certain views and they were no platformed. And obviously, we've known that that's what's going on inside the BBC, but you wouldn't expect it to be the head of news who is being silenced. You would expect it to sort of be more junior people who might have, felt that their views were unfashionable, so they've kept quiet. But, this is a huge thing for the BBC because, their coverage of the trans issue and just of women's issues and crime, they've been reporting about chest feeding and pregnant people, and it's driving people absolutely mad, because they can't talk about sort of biological truths. When they're reporting about rape, for example, they're talking about, a trans-identified male sort of saying she raped her with her penis. These things are a nonsense, an absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And people are so frustrated that the BBC, that is obliged to deliver journalistic excellence and impartiality, is pushing that kind of agenda. It's nonsensical.
Well, Fran Arnsworth, a redoubtable woman, by the way. She doesn't take prisoners, doesn't suffer fools gladly, I can tell you that. But she feels she was bullied out of her job and felt very intimidated by these trans activists at the BBC. Not because she was taking some great anti-trans stance, but she said, when we cover this issue, she was told, you've got to be kind. You've got to be kind to trans people. She said, no. We should neither be kind to them, nor should we be unkind to them. We should take the stories and report them impartially, in an unbalanced, objective way. And for that, she was hounded out of her job. That shows a newsroom that is in big trouble.
Absolutely. And this is the thing with the whole trans issue all over the UK and in all different sort of news platforms as well, where it's being reported in one way or the other or debated. You have to be kind. Otherwise, there is a huge amount of very toxic behaviour that comes your way, and people have been deplatformed and cancelled and, been given all sorts of threats. So it is refreshing to know that she was at least trying to make a stand within the BBC, but obviously we now see what happens from the organisation, that she was not protected in her position, which was literally that we just have to deliver, or the BBC has to deliver on the obligations of the Royal Charter. To deliver journalistic excellence, to talk, truth, to talk both sides of a debate. And she wasn't able to do that. And that's just outrageous.
It really is. And if Matt Britton takes the same kind of lackadaisical view of the problems in the BBC newsroom that his predecessor, Tim Davie, did, then BBC is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Tim Davies, shrugging his shoulders, no, our newsroom is not biased. That was hopelessly inadequate because everybody knows it's not true. So let's hope that the new guy, Matt Britton, confronts the reality of the biased nature of the BBC newsroom. He's really got to get to grips with that. Last question to you, a bit off-piste, but the BBC does do some good work, and Panorama is going to reveal tonight that there are serious problems, apparently, with the Channel 4 show Married at First Sight. This is the totally prurient, unnecessary programme where they put the case that wouldn't marriages be better if two people that had never met each other for the first time at the altar and then became a very happy couple? Wouldn't it be better? Nah, not really. But, once you stop laughing at the absurdity of that proposition, because it's just for prurient, stupid television, voyeuristic television, obviously. But it turns out that according to Panorama, an investigation, at least 2 former female contestants of Married at First Sight have said that around the world that they were sexually assaulted by their new husbands, that there's a sexual assault problem in Married at First Sight. Now, this is one of the most popular programmes in the world. There are 35 versions of it all over the world. It's big here, it's pretty big in the States, massive in Australia. Yeah. Channel 4, thanks to the BBC, are going to have to think about the future of this popular franchise, aren't they? I believe that they are pulling everything to do with it right now. And maybe, perhaps, because of this, we have seen the last of Married at First Sight. If these allegations are true, let's hope we've seen the last of it.
I mean, I'm actually a big fan of the show. I like a bit of voyeuristic relationship TV, so it is, like you say, hugely popular. But the thing that has been happening more and more with these series, and I've just been watching the Australian one, is I think that the production team seems to be rather irresponsible in the selection of candidates or selection of people who are taking part in the show. And I think that, you know, if these allegations are true from the UK show, then they've got some massive, massive questions to ask. And fans of the show will be, you know, really, really disappointed to see this news. And yeah, they really need to get a grip on what's going on and perhaps stop going for such sort of salacious relationship combinations to try and get the viewing figures up and actually be a bit more responsible.
Yeah, I suspect that Married at First Sight could be in big trouble generally. Good to talk to you, Rebecca. Thanks so much for coming on. Always a pleasure. Rebecca Ryan there, Campaign Director for Defund the BBC. Next up, Sun Sports. Stick around.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
welcome back. Director of Sport of the Sun newspaper, Sean Custis, is in the studio. We don't have long, but let's race through this. FA Cup final on Saturday, Sean. Man City did what they do. They kind of suppressed Chelsea.
Boring game, though, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It was a dull game, settled by a great goal.
Yeah.
Well done, Semenyo. Smashing goal, but... I don't think Chelsea defended quite well, but they didn't offer a lot at the other end.
Well, Man City did what they did. They just
won 2
suppressed
cups, having a poor season apparently.
Yeah,
could still win the league.
Yeah, I wish my club could have that kind of poor season. Xabi Alonso is now the Chelsea manager.
Yeah, which to some will be a bit of a surprise because they thought he might hold on to see if Liverpool came for him. They got rid of Arne Slot. Doesn't look like they're doing that. I mean, he's done a 4-year deal with Chelsea starting at the beginning of July. Seems pretty committed to it, and he's been made manager rather than head coach, which suggests he's going to get a bit more authority than previous managers have had. I think the fan base at Chelsea's not sure really about wanting to get, but you can't judge Alonso on when he was at Real Madrid. I mean, that was just ridiculous. The players were uncontrollable, as Arbeloa has found as well. And of course, Kev, just quickly, who's likely to come in at Real Madrid now?
I don't want to talk about it. Marco Silva.
No, Real Madrid. Jose's going to Real Madrid, back to Real Madrid on a 2-year deal, meaning Benfica is now available, and
a certain Portuguese manager at Fulham might be interested.
May well be interested in that. I think he is interested in that, actually. I'm not seeing that as particularly a step up. Premier League's the biggest league, but of course, Portugal will have an attraction for him. He's managed at home before.
And of course, he has the usual rows with the manager.
Benfica
directors.
has a certain kudos about it. They may even consider it's a bigger club than Fulham, dare I suggest.
And also, he's Portuguese, so it'd be nice for him to go home. But, I don't want to talk that up too much, but it's a very serious possibility. Man United's penalty against Forest.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it was
very dodgy. Lots of people felt that was handball, but the referee, even though VAR suggested the referee go to the screen to say, that is a handball. He didn't. He decided it was accidental and played on. Nobody could understand that. And today the PGMOL have said it should have not been a goal. It should have been handball. And that Mbuemo did handle it deliberately. So when Cunha scored, it should have been ruled out. So it wasn't a dodgy penalty. It was a dodgy foul. Had it mattered, Forest weren't happy. But of course they could shrug it off. Because they're safe from relegation, so they could shrug it off and say, look, I think the rules need clarifying. But of course, had that really mattered, can you imagine if Forest was still in the relegation
it would have been a massive
and they conceded that goal. So good that they've said it was wrongly awarded, but bad for the decision in the first place. And finally, Arsenal are playing tonight.
Yeah, so if they
against the mighty Burnley.
Yeah, against mighty Burnley. Now, if they win that, Arsenal, which they should, I mean, surely that's the end of the discussion.
Well, Man City play at Bournemouth tomorrow night. Yeah. Man City can still stay in the title race if they win at Bournemouth tomorrow if Arsenal win tonight. But you would still say it's massively in Arsenal's hands from the end.
And it looks like West Ham will take the drop.
It looks like West Ham will take the drop because they played pretty poorly against Newcastle, apart from a little 10-minute spell in the second half where they tried to make a comeback. Scored a great goal, but it didn't really matter, did it?
No, it didn't. So bad luck to West Ham. Big match tonight. All in the Sun tomorrow, folks, in the back pages of Britain's favourite newspaper. Next up, we're going to be joined by Darren Grimes. He is the Deputy Leader of Durham County Council, the Reform UK leader. We'll get his take on the Makerfield by-election and the 2 protests that unfolded in London on Saturday and the strange reaction to them by the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London. All of that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk to Kinsey Schofield, go across to the west coast of America and talk to our royal guru. A couple of stories we've got to talk about. Old Meghan has been travelling the globe, empathising again, sobbing about children who've died due to online abuse in Switzerland. That empathy just keeps on coming, doesn't it? They call her the tragedy vulture. She's always there when people are dying to empathise. We'll talk about that and also the former Prince Andrew kicking his dog, which people are disgusted by. So he kicked his dog at a royal shoot. What do you think about a man who kicks his dog? 0344 499 1000. What I think about a man who kicks his dog is I wished I was there and I'd kick him. Seriously, see how he likes it. You crawl to your dog. God's sake, apparently the dog took a sausage roll. Should have known better, shouldn't he? Come on. 0344 499 1000. Let's go over first, though, to my next guest. He is Reform UK's Deputy Leader of Durham County Council, Darren Grimes. Welcome, Darren.
Good evening, Kev.
Now, let's talk about Makerfield first, shall we? Now, I don't envy Andy Burnham because West Streeting over the weekend revealed his Achilles heel. In fact, I think Andy Burnham's got a lot of Achilles heels when it comes to the people of Makerfield, who are staunch Brexiteers, voted in their droves for Reform UK at the recent local elections. 23 seats out of 25 at the local council went to Reform UK. I don't fancy Burnham's chances arguing Labour's case on this, but West Streeting said, I want to rejoin the EU. This put Burnham right on the spot. Burnham's been busy saying today, kind of saying, well, yeah, I sort of want to rejoin, but not now, not right now, not right now. In fact, let's remind ourselves of Burnham's kind of hedging speech this morning, and then I'll get your take on it. Take it away, Andy Burnham.
My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. Britain will be stuck in a permanent rut if we're just constantly arguing and people are pulling away from each other. I am not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum, and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote.
So what I would say to Andy Burnham, if I was one of the good people of Makerfield, in fact, if I was one of his political opponents. So when you say that you don't want Britain to rejoin the EU, but when you wrote a book 2 years ago, you said that you did. What is your real position? This guy, Andy Burnham, I mean, he's better than Keir Starmer. He certainly speaks human. He can communicate with people. But actually, that sort of son of the Northern Soil act is just that. It's an act. Take away that northern accent and the fact he lives up there, and what you've got is a classic Labour metropolitan elitist who wants to rejoin the EU, wants to go suffer on the migrant crisis, and just loves all those nut zero soaring energy prices, right?
Yeah, and he waxes lyrical about multiculturalism and diversity and wants to continue those dogmas. Absolutely. You know, we went into those local elections, kept defending 2 council seats, only 2, and we came out with nearly 1,500 of them. And Labour's response is to say, well, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd really love to go back into the EU, because those plebs out there, you know, those working people in those pit towns and the kind of communities that used to actually parachute Labour MPs to Westminster, basically on autopilot, well, they lost nearly 1,500 councillors nationally. And they say the answer is to ignore the will of the people in not just 2016, but in 2019. And then we voted for a manifesto that said that they would respect the Brexit vote in 2024. They want to take us back in, Kev, because they want that convenient response of being able to point to technocrats, unelected as they are, in Brussels and Strasbourg and say, look, it's not us, it's them. We have to do this policy, whether it be mass migration, whether it be regulating ourselves to a hilt, with the EU's own economic czar, Mario Draghi, actually saying the EU is an international laggard because it regulates itself out of the AI race, out of the agri-tech race, all of these other things, financial services, whatever it might be. The EU is sclerotic. And they say the answer to economic growth in this country, I've solved it. It's to rejoin the EU. Well, Kev, tell that, my friend, to Germany. Tell that to France. We have grown, if not faster, just as fast as those countries who are also suffering inflationary pressures, thanks to not just COVID, but the Iran war, the Ukraine war. We're in the same boat. The EU has secured them the square root of naff all when it comes to economic growth. It's a fantasy and it is a fallacy. And they only want to do it because they don't give a jot about democracy. They care about sewing up a technocratic, anti-democratic regime, and they'll do it by any means necessary.
Yeah, and West Streeting, of course, smoked Andy Burnham out by declaring over the weekend.
Thank God he did.
In that speech, I want to rejoin the EU. That's what West Streeting said, forcing Andy Burnham to pretend that he doesn't really want to rejoin the EU, but he does. He's just saying, I don't really want to talk about that now. Well, he's going to have trouble not talking about it now during the campaign for that by-election. If you were campaigning, Darren, I'm sure you will probably make the effort to go over and help out if you can. What will you say to the people of Makerfield in terms of Andy Burnham, because it looks as if Reform UK are set to put up a local plumber called Robert Kenyon as their contender, their candidate in Makerfield, who's a solid working class Reform UK man. What will you say to the people of Makerfield about Andy Burnham?
You know, I would say, like, ultimately, Andy Burnham would have stood absolutely anywhere. From Norwich, you were being touted about being in Clive Lewis's seat, a Labour MP. In his seat, he said no. A few other Labour MPs said no. And finally, Josh Simmons said yes in Makerfield. Ultimately, Andy, what I would say about Andy is that there is a supreme arrogance about the assumption that you can parachute yourself in anywhere, and just because you've got a northern accent and an Everton season ticket, that the working class people are going to say, oh, do you know what, you're one of us, you're one of us, despite the fact you've been soaked in Westminster politics and the Westminster system since you were way high. The fact of the matter is that this man does not stand for you. He does not represent your views, values, and care about what's happening in Britain, care about the quagmire that we find ourselves in. This is it needs to be an abject rejection of his party, of what it has done to our nation, because it's not just about Keir Starmer. This has never been just about Keir Starmer. This is about the Labour Party. Let's not forget that under Andy Burnham's tenure of office, the grooming gangs, the shame that they actually put upon the nation in that part of the world as well, in the Northwest, it's a shame, it's a stain on our nation, and it ought to be one that he never ever held high office again, thanks to. But yet he says, I can be parachuted in and anywhere and win, and just sail through to Downing Street wearing the world's shortest shorts. I think Kylie Minogue was jealous, Kev, in those scenes of him running about Manchester, looking like God knows what. He looked like, what did you call that? That sports, the PE instructor, Richard Simmons, Kev? Is that what his name was? That's what he looked like.
He doesn't look like a trained athlete, put it that way. Somebody, Jeff Norcott, the comedian, said, if you look at those pictures of him jogging along with his little fat legs, he said, Andy Burnham looks like the guy on a lad's outing who's got off the coach to take a leak, and then they've all driven off as a laugh without him, and he's jogging down the road trying to catch up. And it also on the shallow front that we're travelling now, but this is true. I saw him yesterday. I said, oh my God, he's putting up pictures of him jogging. That means he's serious. You know, all politicians seem to think that if we see pictures of them jogging, then we'll think they're dynamic men of action. And he said, no. So I said, he staged that. He said, no. I would never stage a picture of myself jogging. He said, they were camped outside my house all day. They doorstepped me. I can assure you I wouldn't arrange to be filmed. So that film you see of him when he was filmed, apparently as soon as he was filmed, he got into his VW Golf and drove home.
I mean, it tells you all you need to know. He's more plastic. He's more plastic than parts of Katie Price, Kev.
I think he's going to... Just before we move on, give me an assessment. I mean, it would be a fatal mistake of Reform UK to be complacent about Makerfield. But they got to feel good about it. As I say, those people are solid Brexiteers. They voted almost unanimously for Reform UK at the local elections. They believe, I suspect, in what Reform UK stand for. They want strong borders, they don't want net zero, and they don't want to get closer to Europe. That's Labour. That's everything that Labour stand for. So I would have thought that without being overconfident, Reform UK must be feeling good about Makerfield.
We're feeling good about it. We're positive about it. We see this as a supreme act of arrogance to assume that Andy Burnham will be a shoo-in, and that actually, you know, ultimately the national message, the national picture leading up to this has been great for the party. But it's not going to be easy. It's not a slam dunk. You know, we are going to have to work hard, and we will work hard as well. As you say, you know, we're looking at I hope it'll be a local candidate that you've already mentioned in your programme today. I'm thinking that actually what that means is the voters will have a choice where you can choose the Labour man that the Labour MPs, 411 of them, think they need to save their skin from this wretched government, or you can vote for a local fella that actually quite likes his country and what it stands for and what these people voted for in Makerfield and in other parts of Wigan like Makerfield. Ultimately, we are in last chance saloon, Kev, so we're taking this seriously. We will throw absolutely everything at this, and you know, if Andy Burnham is Labour's strongest pawn on the chess set, then boy oh boy, we are going to throw our best knights at that endeavour.
Yes, indeed. Now, you talked about loving your country and being a simple patriot. Well, let's talk about these two demonstrations, these two protests in London, the dueling demos, if you like, on Saturday. One was the Unite the Kingdom march and rally. People say, oh, it's a Tommy Robinson event. Well, yeah, Tommy Robinson... You know, he was a big organiser, a lot of his supporters there, but I went to see it. And believe me, Darren, you'll understand this. This was not a Tommy Robinson event. This was a meeting of people, a gathering of people who are standing against Labour's policies. As we just said, they want stronger borders, they don't want to get closer to Europe, they certainly don't want to rejoin, and they don't want net zero. They're sick of Labour's government and their policies. It was a good-natured event, very friendly, party atmosphere. I went. I also went to Nakbar, the pro-Palestine event just down the road, ominously close actually. And there, by the way, also to Unite the Kingdom, no masks, nothing. No, not even. I didn't even see any hoodies. Just a lot of families there, kids, veterans, disabled people, a lot of people of colour. Went to the Nakbar demonstration afterwards. Totally different atmosphere, quite sinister. They're all calling for Tommy Robinson to be assassinated, shot in the same way that Charlie Kirk was. They're calling for the annihilation of Israel from the river to the sea. They're calling for death to the IDF. They're calling for Jew hatred. They're anti-Semites. It was a nasty atmosphere, loads of them with masks and kaffir scarves up to their eyeballs. That's where the hatred was, Darren. And yet the Prime Minister on Friday said all the hatred will be at Unite the Kingdom. And the Mayor of London yesterday Saturday in his statement reflected only on the what he called the far-right Islamophobic incidents. Didn't even mention Nakba, nor did the Prime Minister. And in the slipstream of both these events, the police aren't issuing statements saying they're looking for Islamophobic hate criminals. They're looking for 7 anti-Semites for Jew hate crimes on Saturday. But neither Starmer nor Sadiq Khan even mentioned the pro-Palestine march. All the hatred was at Unite the Kingdom. And the other thing they didn't mention was that the police, two-tier policing, they only used facial recognition technology at the Unite the Kingdom march, but not at the Nakba pro-Palestine event. It's total two-tier policing, and it's a mischaracterisation of both these events by our political left-leaning leaders.
Absolutely. And if you consider the fact that I can bet my bottom dollar that if someone on the Unite the Kingdom march had called for a leader within the pro-Palestine movement to be assassinated in the same way that Charlie Kirk was, that the likes of Keir Starmer would be putting out a soundtracked video to dramatic music saying how Britain is in the throes of fascism and how these assailants need to be caught. That hasn't happened in the same way, because when it's somebody like Tommy Robinson, well, it doesn't matter, does it? And ultimately, I think the way you just described both of those marches, which you were at, is actually illustrative of where we're at as a country. You had hundreds, alongside the 1,500 almost, of councillors that were elected under Reform UK's banner. You had hundreds of sectarian councillors elected too in those elections. That is, those who are elected under a uniquely pro-Palestine message. It's not about bins from Gateshead to Glasgow. It's actually about Gaza. So ultimately, where we're at is in a civilizational fight for our country. And that fight is one that says, do you subscribe to the way of life that we have held dear on these isles for hundreds of years now? Or do you subscribe to a new sectarian politics, which says that actually the politics of a radical form of Islam, of Gaza, of the Middle East, is more important than what we care about here in this country and have long concerned ourselves with? It's been turned on its head, Kev. We've got ghettos in this country where, you know, if I were to wake up from a coma 40 years back in some parts of England, I would think I was in some parts of the sodding Middle East, Kev. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. So you describe it well, and you describe why it matters and why the elections to come over the years to come, the soon-to-be years, that is, will be the most important, not just in living memory, but I would say for hundreds of years now.
Darren, it's always fantastic to have you on the show. Really good stuff. Thank you very, very much. Darren Grimes, he is the Reform UK's deputy leader of the Durham County Council. Going to be going across to Makerfield to help the frantic campaign by Reform UK to thwart Andy Burnham's bid to return to Parliament. Andy Burnham seems to think that he can just waltz into Makerfield and then waltz to Westminster, no problem at all. I think he's got a mountain to climb. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Also, particularly if you were at the Unite the Kingdom march on Saturday, what do you feel about being demonised by both the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London as, you know, a far-right racist thug? I didn't see any racism. I genuinely, as I say, I can't talk for the entire day, the entire event. I was in Parliament Square for an hour or so. I can't, you know, but I didn't hear or see any racism. I felt the good atmosphere, the good-natured, friendly nature of what was going on there. As I say, no hatred there, no hatred. Down the road at Nakba, absolutely loads of hatred, all directed at Jews and Israel. Why is it that Starmer and Khan refuse to acknowledge that talking about the hatred that's going to be at Unite the Kingdom, and there wasn't any. Not mentioning the actual hatred that was palpable at the NACPAR event. If you were there, or if you have any views on that interesting dichotomy, give me a call. 03444 99 1000. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll go over to the west coast of America to talk live to Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. That next. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense, so head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Big trouble with that hit program Married at First Sight. That's when, the reality TV. What would it be like if two people literally met at the altar and then got married? So they actually do get married. I remember years ago reporting on it, well, not reporting on it, critiquing it when I was a TV critic and thinking, this can't be right. This is purely prurient, isn't it? You know, it's just exploitative. Let's let's all laugh at these two. Well, there's a sinister side to it because Panorama on the Beeb, an investigation there has revealed alleged sexual assault allegations. An episode of Panorama is about to reveal. It's called The Dark Side of Married at First Sight. It's going to be aired tonight at 8 p.m. and it will reveal that at least two women who married men that they never met said they were subsequently sexually assaulted by those men. Channel 4, in response, have pulled every single episode of Married at First Sight, so it's no longer available to watch at all at Channel 4. And I would say that the future of that programme, which is pretty big here in America, it's massive in Australia, 35 countries it's sold to all over the world. I would say that the future of Married at First Sight is probably very short. Let me know what you think. We're going to take some calls in a little while. 03444 99 1000. If the wives are being assaulted, sexually assaulted on Married at First Sight, surely they allege they're being sexually assaulted, I should say. Surely it's time for that programme to die a death, don't you think? 03444 499 1000. Let's now go over to the West Coast live to talk to Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Hi, Kinsey.
Hi, Kev. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Well, first up, she's at it again. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has been to Switzerland, where she's sobbing away, empathising with the relatives, the parents, the grieving parents of young people who have died due to, allegedly died due to online harm, to what goes on online. It's a very worthy cause, but Meghan turning up to cry about dead people is becoming a bit of a thing, isn't it? No wonder critics call her the tragedy vulture. We saw her after the Los Angeles fires, the wildfires there. We saw her recently. We're looking at pictures of her here, communing with the victims and the grieving relatives of those who died in the Bondi Beach slaughter. And now she's in Switzerland, communing and
Children's Hospital, where you buy her clothes. Uvalde, Texas, where she showed up uninvited after a mass shooting at a elementary school with cameras in tow, and there was such an outrage that they were advised not to use that footage in their Netflix series.
Well, yeah. So what is it that people say this woman is a tragedy vulture? Well, whatever she is, I know this much, and you know this much, Kinsey. She knows that a photo of her welling up as she talks to the victim or the relative of somebody who died in horrible circumstances, terrorism, online harm, she knows that that picture will garner her positive headlines. She's just cashing in on them, isn't she?
Well, I mean, and it just goes to show how lazy some of these journalists are, because if you Google Meghan Markle powerful speech, you see how many major news outlets clearly copied and pasted, in my opinion, the Sussex press release about this. Otherwise, why is Hello Magazine, In Style, Page 6, all running almost an identical headline, Meghan Markle powerful speech? It's lazy journalism. So she's getting her way when she does that. Her team is considering that a win. I'd suggest, if you're a viewer or a listener at home, it should make you more cynical when you see headlines like that, because you realize that somebody's sent a press release to a news organization and the writer is just sitting there and regurgitating what's been said versus reporting anything original or having their own opinion. But yeah, is Meghan Markle the ambassador to do this? Is she the right figure to do this? Hours before this speech, she shared a picture of Lily on social media to generate interest and headlines in her own profile. I think she uses people's suffering. I think she uses people's grief to promote herself, to elevate herself, and to try to change public perception from her toxic brand. I think it's sick. I think, you sent me this headline and I said sicko, and I meant that. Yeah. There's something very selfish and dark about Harry and Meghan's new strategy, which is using the suffering of others to promote their business, to try to promote and change their image.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not right. It just rubs everybody up the wrong way. Talking of the toxicity of the Sussexes, Harry and Meghan, big articles. By the way, my programme, What Just Happened, we were there first, and this is the increasing shunning of the gruesome twosome of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex by the A-list, many of whom attended their wedding. So, for example, Oprah Winfrey wouldn't be seen dead with them anymore, nor would David and Victoria Beckham. And many, many people who attended their wedding, big A-list stars, celebrities, now don't want to be seen with them. And I think it is to do with what we've just been discussing, that Meghan in particular just keeps putting herself in these very tawdry circumstances that, you know, are just a bit low rent, you know, as you say, trying to sell clothes, going to see sick kids in hospital, effectively modelling clothes. Now buy my sick kid in hospital outfit. Oh, now buy the outfit that I wore to meet the victims of the Bondi Beach massacre. That's low rent behaviour, and the A-listers who once flocked to them don't want to know anymore.
I mean, I think they flocked to them because they didn't know any better. I think they flocked to them because people have a soft spot in their heart for Harry's mother, and the palace did a great job of painting a picture of Harry that I don't think he truly was or is. I think that the palace worked overtime to reinvent him after he wore a Nazi costume. So interesting to hear his thoughts on Israel, you know, a few years later. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're trying to counteract this particular headline with a exclusive to Deadline, which they have presented Deadline, not Variety, who recently had a scathing piece about Meghan Markle, but Deadline, one of their competitors, about a new Netflix project that they have coming out allegedly, because I've seen nothing from them of value post Polo, and Polo certainly wasn't of value, but called No Way Out, the searing true story of men under siege. And it's about the war in Afghanistan. And Deadline says that Matt Charman, he's an Oscar-nominated writer of Bridge of Spies, is writing this adaptation for Netflix. And they say that this is a part of Harry and Meghan's deal under Archwell. First Look deal, which was a decline from their original exclusivity deal. So that's this, I think, piece in Deadline was presented to Deadline to try to counteract this story. But it's also kind of a threat. Harry and Meghan, because they push some of their other alleged upcoming projects in this piece, the wedding date, allegedly, Meet Me at the Lake, allegedly. Yeah. The lake is dried up. The lake is dried up. The sexy new Polo drama that they want to compete with rivals that they're allegedly working on with Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage. It's a threat. They're saying you have to be nice to us because we could cast you in some of these things. We're going to, in our producer roles, we are going to have a sort of power. You're going to need us, in my opinion, is what this is. And they're going to kind of force some of these associations, or they're going to try to in their producing roles. But they've, again, the return on investment has not proven valuable to Netflix other than a reality show that has been milked dry. The Sussexes have no more access to the British royal family, and I think that the royals will continue to distance themselves. They're not going to be able to recreate the magic of the Harry and Meghan docuseries, and they have not proven through Heart of Invictus, Live to Lead, Polo, or anything else that they're capable of recreating that magic. So yeah, I think that this kind of story is a nothing burger.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I mean, you know, they announced they're going to make this Afghanistan movie, and you think, well, what happened to Meet Me at the Lake that you announced about 3 years ago? You bought the rights to that best-selling novel, said you're going to make a movie of that. That's all that seems to have happened. You just bought the rights and then didn't do anything. Then suddenly they bought the rights to this book called The Wedding Date, and nothing's happened on that. At all. And then they announce, oh, yeah, we're going to make this film about Afghanistan. Well, shouldn't you make the films that you've already announced before announcing a third movie that, frankly, on past experience, you just won't make? What the hell are they playing at?
Distracting from the negative headlines. But I also fine to say we have power in Hollywood. We can help you. You don't, you don't want to blow us off. You don't want to be quoted saying something negative about us because we have this power over here at Netflix, which I don't really think is valuable at all. I think Netflix just keeps giving him a break because Ted has a soft spot for these weirdos, which I'll never understand. But yeah, I mean, this Afghanistan movie, it's in Harry's wheelhouse. It's really not in Meghan's. Harry, the same guy that bragged about killing 25 Taliban and alienating a lot of that community because that is apparently not something you should ever discuss. I don't know if they'll support him in this project if it actually ever comes to fruition, because he made a lot of enemies in gloating about that accomplishment in his eyes, I guess.
Yeah,
yes.
His kill count. Yeah, really bad. Now, listen, let me just finish with you, if I can, Kinsey, about a story that's really getting people furious over here. It's at Andrew Lowney. He's updated his astonishingly successful incendiary book entitled The Decline and Fall of the House of York, about Andrew and Fergie. And a new story that he's got was on one of these royal shooting weekends. The royals love to get together and blast birds out of the sky. Never happier than when they're killing animals, the royals, but there they are, blasting birds out of the sky. And
I don't think the same could be said about King Charles. I don't think he really enjoyed that type of stuff.
Maybe not, but it's one of the things I've never appreciated the royals for, their love of blasting birds out of the sky, killing innocent creatures for fun. They love it, but hey ho. Anyway, he takes, as you do, his gun dog, is a black Labrador apparently, to this shooting thing, and there's sausage rolls and wine and everything, and apparently the dog, as dogs do, you know that, Kinsey, leapt up and took a sausage roll from a plate. Now, most owners would go, oh, don't do that, Rex, or whatever the dog's called. Andrew turned around and kicked his dog in the head, and one of the guests went up to him and said, you should not do that to your dog. Don't be cruel to your dog like that. And Andrew, of course, in not so many words, told this guest to get lost. Apparently later, Prince Philip, when they were having dinner later, went up to that guest and said, well done for what you did earlier. More people should say that to Prince Andrew.
We agree with you. Yeah, he said we agree with you.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to Prince Philip and the Queen then is, well, why didn't you say it more often?
Yeah,
perhaps.
Smack him upside the head. Yeah, the lack of discipline, the lack of accountability, and the entitled behavior is something that they allowed to go on far too long. And that's why we saw, in my opinion, and potentially a police investigation we'll have to wait and see, an abuse of power and an irresponsibility in his role. Sharing government secrets with a convicted sex offender is not the moral thing to do. But abusing dogs, innocent, sweet dogs who just live for your happiness, screw you, guy. Like, I was already done with you, but I believe this to be true based on everything else we've heard about him. I think another example of this, and it's not as extreme, as when the Queen said, I don't want any more dogs. I don't want to outlive my dogs. I think you can relate to that. I certainly can. I know my dogs are here. I don't want any dogs that would outlive me because I think that's cruel. They're going to have a different lifestyle than the one I would provide for them. So I have 4 dogs that sleep with me. And Andrew went and bought her 2 dogs. And and one of them passed away, and then they replaced that dog. And so, they added additional stress to her life after she made a very clear, statement about what she wanted to happen. They added additional stress by bringing these puppies into her life because they knew better. No, it was additional work. And then now you're worried you're going to trip over a puppy. We don't know what happened to the first puppy that passed away. God knows what happened to that dog. But it's just like he's so irresponsible when it comes to animals, allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Kinsey, and I think it's pretty much the same in America. But in Britain, we will forgive a man a lot of things, but we will not forgive anyone for kicking their dog in the head. That is where we draw the line. I know that Americans are the same. So to hell with Prince Andrew for that, kicking his poor dog in the head because he took a sausage roll. It's a dog.
My Edie, my fattest dog, loves nothing more than to grab the pizza out of my hand and haul you know what, in the opposite direction. And God love her.
If you don't understand that about dogs, you don't understand dogs. He clearly didn't. Kinsey, it's fantastic to talk to you as always. I'll talk to you tomorrow for your podcast and also on Thursday. That's Kinsey Schofield there. We're going to go to break and from now on we'll take your calls. 03444991000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to go to the phones in just a second. Couple of messages. This is from Melanie. She says, unbelievable that two candidates pushing to be leader of Labour are proposing to impose policies yet again on us that were not in the Labour manifesto, as with the current leader. This is totally undemocratic and we demand a general election to restore democracy. Best, Melanie. Well said, Melanie. Exactly right. Did you vote for Brexit? Do you believe in Brexit? And if so, what do you think about the two main contenders as things stand? Andy Burnham and Wes Streeting both want to rejoin the EU. So does the Prime Minister, by the way. In his heart of hearts, in his ideal world, we would all rejoin. If you voted Brexit, what do you think about these people that want to betray Brexit, what you voted for? They want to go back into Europe. They don't care what you think. 03444991000. If you lived in Makerfield, who would you vote for? Would you vote for Burnham, which would be a vote for Europe, a vote for net zero, and a vote to not crack down on the migrant crisis, to keep open borders? Would you vote for Burnham for that reason? If you do live in Makerfield, will you vote for him? 03444991000. Talking about the two demonstrations, the rallies, the dueling demos in London at the weekend. Richard says, Richard from Harrow here. I was at the rally with my partner and a few friends, and it's the safest I've felt walking the streets of London in a very long time. Although it was a crowd of strangers, everyone I spoke to felt like a friend. Yeah, I mean, it was a very friendly atmosphere. There's no getting away from it. A very family atmosphere. A lot of people of colour there, by the way. So this wasn't a sort of white supremacist event by any manner of means. A lot of people saying we just want our country back. 03444991000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk first to Karen in Bournemouth, who wants to talk about those protests. Hi, Karen. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. Firstly, the lawyer speaking, Keir Starmer's little video.
Yeah.
He was basically giving the Nakba.
Well, he didn't mention them.
Well, no, that's the point. He was giving them permission to do exactly what they wanted by not mentioning them.
I think more to the point, Karen, he was. I think he was trying. He was hoping for a fight. He was hoping. Yes. He was hoping for it to kick off at Unite the Kingdom, so today he could be on his soapbox, on his high horse, telling us about far-right racists, extremists. I'll crack down on them like I did after Southport, but it didn't work out because Unite the Kingdom was a very peaceful, friendly, good-natured event.
And in fact, I think that it's made the event even more peaceful because the whole country's going, up yours, Starmer, we're not going to rise to your bait anymore.
That's right. It's right. A lot of people said that what he said on Friday was an incitement to violence, acting that the only trouble, the only hate would be at Unite the Kingdom. While I went, there was no hatred at Unite the Kingdom. Then I went to Nakba. It was a seething cauldron of hatred towards Jews in Israel and Tommy Robinson, who they were calling for to be assassinated like Charlie Kirk, in their masks and keffir scarves up to their eyeballs. No masks at Unite the Kingdom, Karen. No masks at all.
No, I noticed that as well. And I also noticed that the police were dressed differently. And the other thing I wanted to say is about the this idea that Andy Burnham's a really good communicator. Well, it doesn't make him any less of a liar. He just lies better.
Yeah, well, he's a really good communicator in terms of pretending that he doesn't want to get us back into the EU as soon as humanly possible. That's going to be what he'll be saying throughout the campaign to win Makerfield. It's a lie. He wants us to get back into Europe. So does West Streeting. So does Carter. So does Starmer. So do all of them. We're being governed by people who hate the democratic decision that the people of Britain made, and they want to reverse it. They want to get us back into the Brussels Club. Good luck with that. Karen, good call as always. Got to go, though. Thank you very much, Karen in Bournemouth. Let's quickly talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Kevin. How are you? All right?
I'm good. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm just so irritated. I'm so angry with these two idiots, another two lying idiots.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Labour Party. 17 million people voted for Brexit. Yeah. They never did it properly. They never carried it out as it was promised. We've still paid Europe, we've still paid France millions of pounds since the Brexit thing. You know, I just feel that, and now I think they're saying this to upset each other.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The narrative, the orthodoxy spewed out by the left, by Labour and the left, is that 60% of the country now realise that it was a terrible mistake to leave Europe and they want to get back in. Well, there's no evidence for that. And a lot of the Reform UK types have said, all right, let's have another referendum. And if we did, there'd be the same vote to leave Europe. So these Labour people who don't care, people like Streeting and Burnham, who don't care what the people voted and want to get back into Europe, they're going against the desires of the people of this great country.
Planned on it in the first place. Yeah. They were gobsmacked when the country voted to leave Europe. They weren't expecting it. And they still have over. They
can't come to terms with it. They can't cope.
No, they can't. They can't. And the thing is, people want to be able to run their own things in this country. We pay to have politicians. Well, no, yeah, we pay to have politicians run this country. This bunch have done a lousy job. Well, and if they think that people will still vote to go back into Europe, although I think with the
they wouldn't, Jill. They wouldn't. They just wouldn't. This is a creation by the left. They just make this stuff up. But 60% of the population want to get back in. Prove it. Prove it. There is no proof for that. Jill, I've got to move on, but I'm with you all the way. It's another great call from you. Keep in touch, of course. Jill from Cornwall there. Let's go to break. We'll take some more messages, more phone calls when we come back. 0344 499 1000. See you in a sec.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Quick text from Sue. She says, Andy Burnham saying he doesn't want to rejoin the EU. I seem to recall Starmer saying the same thing leading up to the general election. Look at him now. Why should the good people of Makerfield believe Andy Burnham? I don't. That's what Sue says. Do you? 0344 499 1000. Now we're going to go to Makerfield and talk to a resident of that fine constituency, Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the show. Andy Burnham might knock on your door to ask for your vote. What will you tell him, Jeff?
Well, what I will tell him, I'm not happy about his role in the grooming gang inquiry in Oldham. I'm not happy about the way his government has handled the grooming gang inquiry. Mm-hmm. I also fail to understand why Josh Simons has resigned. And if Andy Burnham had the guts, he would resign as Mayor of Greater Manchester and just put himself solely up for this seat.
I think that's Josh Simons. I think Josh Simons kind of had to resign because he's a sleazeball who took part in a campaign to discredit journalists from the Sunday Times. That's why he had to step down. But it has provided a seat, your area, Jeff Makerfield, that Andy Burnham's going to fight, where they're staunch Brexiteers there. They voted for Reform UK at the local elections in their droves. A vast majority voted for Reform UK. What's your feeling, Jeff? I would suggest that Andy Burnham's in a lot of trouble in Makerfield.
Yeah, what I will say to you, we're getting HMOs foisted upon us with no consultation whatsoever with the residents. The area itself is, and it's like a lot of areas in Greater Manchester. Manchester itself, you can see the spending, but if you look at the outlying towns like Bolton, Wigan, Ashton in Makerfield and Lee, there's been no spending there. We've got decaying towns.
And Maggie Oliver, of course, the whistleblower who exposed the rape gang scandal, she's saying that Andy Burnham was about as much use as a chocolate fireguard, that he would say all the right things and then disappear and not do anything. So he's got a lot of questions to ask about the rape gang situation as well.
I mean, if it's going to talk, we're in quite a lot of debt. You know, the government itself. We've got bond prices actually rising. We're spending more now on national debt,
on welfare than we are. Actually, we're spending more on welfare than we are receiving in income from income tax, and that is crazy dysfunctional economics at their very worst. Jeff, keep in touch. Give us another ring. Let us know what's going on in Makerfield, because we're all on the edge of our seats. Jeff in Makerfield there, and Peter Cardwell is in the studio. See what I did there? Kevin. What a brilliant link that was. That's why I get the small bucks. What have you got on your show, Peter?
Well, Isabel Oakeshott will give us her view on the Brexit wars within Labour. We'll also talk about why ADHD sufferers are getting blue badges. And there's a big developing story this evening about Married at First Sight UK, the reality TV show, and about people who are alleging rape.